Okay, this is the first exercise that we have when you look through your homework pack, which is division of decimals by whole numbers. Now this is done in the same way that we would do normal division with one extra step, and the extra step is that we line up the decimal point, and that's it. Otherwise it is identical. So let's pick some of the questions and have a go at it.
So where's our homework pack?
Have I not given you yet?
No.
Okay, just follow me from where we have at the moment. So just look at what we got here. So question number 1 says 52.5, and we divide that by 3. So here's our decimal point. So the title is division of decimals by whole numbers, and this is question number 1, and the exercise number is 12. Now when we do this type of question, we always put the second item first and the first item second, and then we draw our bus stop. So the 3 will go first, even though it's written second in the original question, and then we have the 52.5. 52.5. Now, what we need to do here, the difference between this question and a normal division question is we have a decimal point in this part of the question, not this part. So this is the whole number part, that's the decimal part. Now, what we need to do, we need to line up the decimal parts. So we get a line. Okay, I put a yellow line there. I don't know how visible that is. So we got our original black decimal point on the yellow line, and I'm going to put another decimal point above it. Okay, now we are going to proceed to do the question. So once we have lined the decimal point from the question into the answer, and that's it, that's the only extra bit. The rest of the question is a normal bus stop short division question. Try not to poke your own eye with the pencil, Bilal. That really won't be a good idea. Put the pencil like pointing towards the paper rather than pointing towards your eye. Allahu Akbar. How many 3's go into 5?
1 remainder 2.
1 remainder 2. How many 3's go into 22? And the answer is?
7 remainder 1.
7 remainder 1. How many 3's go into 15?
5.
So the answer to 52.5 divided by 3 is equal to 17.5 is the answer. So that is the technique that we do for all of these questions here. And really there's nothing, whether I do one example, 2 examples, 3 examples, that should be enough as an example for you guys to do the following questions. So I'm going to give you a couple of questions to try. You can try question number 4. Question number 8. You can also try question number 20. Okay, and those 3 will do for the moment. Right, I'm going to go through it now. It's recording. When we add and minus decimals, number 1, we line up the decimal points in the question to the answer. So everything has to be all lined up. Number 2, we fill in any gaps with zeros. Number 3, we add and minus like normal whole number questions that we do them. Don't forget to borrow when needed. So let's do one example of addition and one example of subtraction over here. So let's look at number 1. Number 1, we have the following question. 62.1 plus 0.53 plus 215. Now one thing we need to add to our rules here to make them complete here. Let's put in a different color. Okay. So don't forget to borrow when needed, and also we need to also decimalize any whole numbers. So if you're adding whole numbers, so decimalize any whole numbers. So I'll give you an example here. Copy this down. Don't look at the screen. Copy down. So for example, if you had 23 is in your question, so that becomes 23.0 at least. So if you get 117, that becomes 117.0. So the decimal point in the question is always at the end of the number. The decimal point of a whole number is hidden. We're going to put it in ourselves. It's always at the end of the number. There, we put it in. So for example, in the question number 1 over here, we have a decimal point here. Okay, whoops, that's wrong. I wanted the decimal point, and we have no decimal point. So we're going to put one in ourselves. So the number 215 becomes 215.0. So that's done in a different color to highlight that my original question was this, and then I kind of edited it, and I've got that. Okay, we happy with that? So now let's line them all up. So we got 1, 2, 3 decimal points. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and we'll have 1 in the answer 4. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I'm going to try to get a line and show you how you all line it all up.
I know.
Okay, so all the decimal points need to line up. It's important that this lining up happens. And I'm going to make the decimal point again a bit more on top of the line now. Okay, we're going to fill it out in 1 second. My decimal points are a bit kind of like wonky. Okay, we'll try my best. Here we go. So you have 62 and 1. Keep everything in the right columns. So note goes here, next decimal point, doesn't go here. And so automatically the numbers start to fit into the right columns. Okay, the next one is 215.0, so that goes over here. It's 2, 1, 5, 215.0. So now everything is lined up and all the numbers are moved around to be in the right place value. So we're not trying to line up the numbers, we are lining up the decimal point, which pushes the numbers into the right place. So this number starts here and it gets pushed that way. This number starts over here and gets to there. So as we see it. So what we're going to do now, we're going to add them up. Now we said that we can fill up any gaps with zeros. So let's do that now. You can do in addition, you don't need to do that in addition, but you definitely need to do in subtraction. Because the subtraction you're going to start making big, you're going to have problems. If you don't do in addition, it doesn't really matter. But we'll do it now anyway, just to show you what it will look like. So we can put an extra 0 here, so everything lines up. And we can put an extra 0 over here. And we can put an extra 2 zeros here, but that's, for the moment, that's fine. So now let's work out the answer. So 0 at 3 at 0 is?
3.
1 at 5 at 0 is?
6.
And the decimal point's already there, yeah? Because we lined them up. Okay? And purposely we lined them up. 2 at nothing at 5 is?
7.
6 at 1 is?
7.
2 at nothing is?
2.
2. So the final answer is?
2.
So remember, this was a decimal number here. That was a decimal number here. That wasn't a decimal number. It was a whole number. But we decimalized it by changing it to a whole number by putting the decimal point at the end. Okay? So decimal point is always at the far right end of a number. Not the beginning, not in the middle. If you want to put decimal point into a whole number, it always goes at the end, the right, the lowest place value next to the units. Okay? So that's example of addition done. Okay, let's have a look if we can. Let's do a subtraction one.
Oh.
Okay, another question now. So let's rule that off. And we're going to do an example here. The question is 500 minus 0.14. Okay. Now, in this question here, we have one decimal number, which is this one here, and one whole number. What do we do to the whole number below? We have to decimalize it, yeah? Put a decimal point in it. So let's change the color and go to a black. So 500 becomes, the decimal point is always at the far end, the far right of the number, where the units place value is. So we put, what do we put here? A point in a different color to show that we have now done this ourselves. So the original color is in red, the question, and the black bit we just done now is the our understanding of the question. Now what do we do? If we got to fill in any zeros, we got to line up the decimal points. So, one decimal point here. We have one decimal point here. And one decimal point here in the answer. Alright, let's get our yellow line just to show you. Oh, the yellow. Okay. So, okay, and let's get our black lines again. Okay, so we got the black ones here, this black dots here. That's our decimal point. I'm just putting them on top of the lines now. Okay, now let's copy the number up again. So we have 500. Okay, so give me one more margin in white. Okay, folks, right, so we have 500. When it says 500 point? 0. Now we've got a minus 0.14. So the first node goes next to the decimal point. So as you see it, is how we put in. So we don't line up this 0 below here, this 0 here. We don't line up with the 5 to be. We don't line the numbers up, we line up the decimal points. So decimal point tells us where to put the other numbers. So the 1 goes under the 0. Where does the 4 go? Next one over here. Lovely. You might think, why are the numbers all over the place? That is what the question is. As we've done here. We have a question going from here, look. Ikra from here to there to here. Okay, so we're not doing anything about lining up the numbers. We line up the decimal points in a line. Now, the rule number 2 said fill in gaps with 0. So I'm going to use a same green color now. So we need to put a 0 in here. Remember, when you're doing addition, filling in the zeros, it doesn't really matter. But for subtraction, it's very important. We must put them in because they will help us. So we can put in zeros as well here. So where we had a gap in the number, put zeros in. Now we need to do the calculation. Okay, where do we start the question? We start the question over here. We always start on the far right of the number when you do subtraction. So you got 0 take with 4, 0 take with 4. The answer is you have to borrow. Yeah. So you go to the next one. Can you borrow from there? Next one. Next one from the 5. Okay, let's change to a red so we can see quite clearly what we've done. So we borrow from the 5. The 5 becomes a 4. The one that we borrow from the 5 goes to the next digit, and then we borrow from the 10 here, which is here, and that becomes a 10. Then we borrow from that 10, that becomes a, and then that becomes a 10. So we're giving, borrowing, and passing the number all the way down. So that 10 then becomes 9 because we borrow 1 from it. And then we finally can actually do the question. So we have now 10 take with 4. 10 take with 4 will give us an answer of 6. 9 take with 1 will give us an answer of 8. And then 9 take with nothing is 9. 9 take with nothing is 9. 4 take with nothing is 4. And the question is finished. So addition question, a subtraction question,